This is what we were talking about in a mowed lawn, how the density, you cannot see bare ground. If you cut the grass shorter and you separate the leaf from the stems, the proportion will be more like a 60% leaf in dry weight, if you weight it. Now if you go to a taller grass and you cut it, that's been selectively grazed, it will be more like on Bermuda. I have record up to 97% stem and 3% leaf. So that's how important this is, because photosynthesis is carried out by the leaf, not by the stems. So we have a much smaller forest panel when we allow the grass to grow taller, and then we selectively graze. At the end of the season, we'll have mostly stems. Okay.
How would you recommend best going about learning to identify grasses?
Oh, there are books with pictures that you can take, a field guide.
Okay.
It's called a field guide. Mm-hmm. You take it and you put it, but the best way to identify grasses is by looking at the flower. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have flowers, it's very difficult.
So you have to wait until it gets to the flowering point.
Yes, that's when you can identify them.
Okay.
Yes. There is also a site that you can take a picture and put it there and people tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see the sheep in a second. I don't know if y'all saw them coming in. We don't really do much cattle here. We did for a while. We're a little too small. We're mainly a sheep operation. Started with 20. We're up to 95 now. The flock's growing. It's doing pretty well. Still just trying to figure out all that stuff that we just learned, and grazing and whatnot. Just as an example, I always like to stand right here and look. I just call this the line, just for example. The sheep were here on Wednesday, Thursday, and they were in this section Thursday morning, and then they were down there Thursday afternoon. But when I'm here, I see a pretty distinct, it's a lot less grazed there than it is here. And, you know, talking with Jimmy and looking at the thing, having paid attention to what everything he just said, I'm thinking this is a lot more on the lines of what we're shooting for.
No, as I explained Thursday, they're taking it down further here because this is more degraded. So the grass is less fibrous because it didn't grow as tall as over there, because this is eroded. This is a subsoil. Remember I explained that. That's why they take it down shorter. I think next time you come here, you don't graze this. You allow it to grow longer, because it's going to be lower in fiber, and if you keep doing that, it has no plants there. It's eroded soil. So that needs tender loving care for a while. Once it gets like this, then we can continue doing it. But if we keep hammering it, it won't be good for it.
This stemmy stuff, would you come back and cut it down?
What did I suggest?
Yes. Graze them, get everything you can out of it, and then come and cut it.
Because if we go down there, that's not graze, they tell me that's poisonous.
The choke cherry?
Yeah, and all that. Yeah.
So if we don't mow it, how can we allow the best species to come up? It's too much competition.
This section of the farm, and it just happened to fall in the grazing rotation with the class. This has just happened to be where they were. But I've always had a hard time really with this hill. It's always been a little tricky. A lot of this when we first got here was totally looked like that. It was totally bare. And then down in the bottom isn't really much grasses. It's brambles and locusts, a lot of wisteria. There's a huge wisteria vine, and this you'll see it in a moment. Anyway, so it's been a little more challenging as opposed to the backfield, which we'll see in a moment.
Are you gonna take your locusts out?
I mean, I don't know. I don't want them to get huge. What I might do is, and they like the branches. Maybe next time they're here, they like the leaves.
Yeah.
Maybe next time they're here, I might just take a second and break a few branches and let them eat it. And then Jimmy also suggested too to just cut them off at the ground level and just let them.
My suggestion to opposite.
Yeah, get them off.
Yes.
Not to get rid of them though?
No.
Let them come back.
Yes, the sheep love them.
And the bees love them too.
Yeah.
And the cows love
And they're a great resource on the farm too. Like if I was going to take them out, I'd let them get up big enough to where I could use them for something.
Yes, that's good.
So, Rocco, I'm with you. Where I was thinking this is what you were talking about getting down to, and this I was feeling embarrassed because this is what it looks like when my sheep come off. Can you comment? Like, is this what you're looking for, or should this gone a little farther, a little higher density, or what?
80% is good enough.
Okay.
It's excellent.
Good job, Rocco.
So
Well, no, it's
it's good.
And it's interesting what you say. All things being equal, time and space and everything, they ate more of this because they needed more because there's less nutrition in it.
So maybe next time you said Monday you were going to mow that. That's perfect. Then maybe next time we skip this area. We allow it to grow more because it doesn't have enough.
Yeah.
And you have to go by, not by area, but by quantity of forage on offer. Maybe here you needed to move them before. They took it. This is not bad, but that is very bad.
Sure. I'd be tempted to seed this and then put the animals in here and feed hay. Kind of move the hay around and let that seed get established, let the hay get on top. As the hay degrades and the frost plants it, and then in spring that can come back up.
But it makes sense to put hay down first, let it decompose, degrade, add some
If you had the
organic
money,
matter to the top.
if you had the money, but if not, you just feed the hay there, and that will improve.
And the hay itself too is a decent seed bank as well. So
Would this be a place where you put in the humic matter grasses, the big cover crop grasses, or what would you be planting? Just a straight pasture mix?
It's too small. I will do a straight pasture mix. Yes. And the best way would be to do the key line plow because it's subsoil. So we need to loosen it up, but perpendicular to the slope, so it won't be carried out when it rains.
I think you're talking about the key line. Is that at one time?
On a place like this, yes. In other places, I would do it like 2 or 3 times, and that's it.
And then that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a hard pan. If you don't have a hard pan, no.
There's a lot of confusing. You go from one of watching Ray Archuleta to never till the soil, don't do that, to the next person says, well, you need to till it to a degree.
But if you never till the soil, how are you going to plant the first time? For example, here, if you never till it, well, most people do it with Roundup. But if you heard about Gabe Brown, he's the leading no-till planter. We are on a discussion forum, and I asked him, isn't light tillage better than Roundup? So finally, he acknowledges that yes, light disking is much better than Roundup. So he doesn't use Roundup anymore.
something Ray told me, chronic tillage is a lot different than temporary, than just quick tillage. And if you got to run some equipment in there to get something established and then keep the equipment off,
The objective is to end up with no tillage, but sometimes you have to start with light tillage. Yes,
Do you use high density chickens?
that would be great. Yes. Yes. It depends on your scale. If you have 500 acres, it's difficult. But if you have a quarter of an acre, yes, that would be good.
let's go look at the sheep.
Yes. See how good they graze everything, they browse?
Yeah.
This is very good utilization.
Rocco, what I asked
You cannot get it better. It's
summer
Cut
being a
this, you
shepherd.
just cut the...
this late in the year, no. But if it was summer, yes, I would cut it. But not now. It's a good source
Even
of
though
food.
they ate it.
They ate it, yeah. It's an art. It's not only a science.
Yeah.
This is a good example of a leafy pasture, preconditioned by the previous treatment. It was mowed, so that's what they selected first, more leaf. That's what they like best. He is huge. He is huge.
How much do you think he weighs?
1,400 maybe?
He's beautiful.
Yeah, 1,300, 1,400. He's very big. And he's finished. See the lumps of fat on both sides of the tail? He can still gain another 50 pounds. See how they graze where it has been mowed before? They selected that first because it's higher in energy, lower in fiber.
No, that's a great point. They came right here first. Okay, everybody, there's the sheep. I'll try and bring them a little closer so we can have a better look at them.
Are they all Dorper?
And they are a St. Croix, Florida native cross. Those are two breeds that are coming from hotter tropical places. And I couldn't agree with Jimmy more. You know, you get those animals from hotter places and they're dealing with really, in my mind, two things. One is an increased number of parasites and the other is less nutritious grass. So to bring them up here, they've performed well. They are sheepish. I mean, they are skittish. And that's something that, for these purposes, maybe I can go down there and walk around just so we can have just a look at them. But as important as it is to monitor body condition and productivity and everything like that.
Yeah, but we can look at their manure. It's right here.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, talk to
See?
me about their manure.
This is very good manure. See, it's green, well digested, moist, not hard pelleted. That's very good. That means they're doing good.
So you don't want the sheep to be hard pellets?
No, see the manure that has big pieces of non-digested fiber. See, if you get closer, this is very well digested. I don't see big pieces, so it's good. And then if you look at the animals, they are in good body condition. And they are, I need to see the field, I need to get closer. But from here, they look very healthy.
So the biggest thing I'm seeing when I come out here after that is this thing is enormous. This paddock that they're in is way too. It's entirely too large.
Sheep have the advantage that they're not going to drag the manure. The manure is more drier than cows. So you can get away with less frequent moves. Maybe twice a day will be perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe once a day would work.
Yeah. We can go take a closer look, but we've got stuff here that isn't, you know, it's not just that pretty little carpet of grass, but, you know, so be it.
So are you saying to like rehab a pasture like this? Like would you put them in here tighter to try to force them to graze this kind of stuff?
Yes, like a third of the area.
Okay. And they would get into this stuff, you think?
And they will. They just came in here today.
Okay.
Maybe in a day and a half or 2 days they will eat most of it. That's what I think.
Okay.
But it's just a little too big. Just a little.
Okay. We have sheep and I guess, I mean, we're giving them small strips and they'll just fussily pick around and it seems like they'd rather go hungry than eat this, but maybe
How
we're just
often
not
do you
pushing
move them?
We move them every day.
Maybe go to twice a day.
Okay. And give them much smaller areas than we do.
But they don't eat this ever? Or this? Or this?
No.
This they don't eat this?
No.
Here they do. Up there they ate it.
Yeah, okay. So just not pushing.
Maybe you're giving them too large an area.
Yeah.
That's
Too many
selective.
other
Right?
options like alfalfa
Yes.
hay.
Oh, yeah, that will do it. In a dairy situation, you want the leader animals to select the best and then have a follower herd to clean up the plate so you can get the best regrowth, because the type of grazing will determine the next grazing, how good it will be.
Paying attention to that body condition is really huge, and just their general energy level, and you know, they're all tight, they're all together, they're all pretty alert. So, you know, I'm not seeing any big red flags at the moment or anything like that. And again, monitoring their manure is huge as well. It's a really great insight.
And in sheep, their eyelids.
Yeah, the inside of their eyelids as well.
See if they have anemia.
Anemic.
Anemic,
Yeah.
and then that means they have stomach worms.
Yeah, worms, yeah.
But you have a parasite-resistant flock.
We have lost sheep to worms.
Me too. I had 1,000 sheep in my farm, so I know.
And it's a tough, you gotta kind of draw that hard line if you're gonna commit to that. It's so important to start with genetics that are resistant to parasites.
Rocco, look, you can see the feel and the body condition there.
Yeah, here we go, coming in. Some look better than others too. I'll show you
They're
one.
consistent.
They
are pretty consistent.
Yeah, it's very good. And
The way they go, oh, they're so cute. Is anybody counting them?
Yeah.
I'll fall asleep. Fall asleep.
And I lost it because it got cold. Watch the last one. I know it's the last one. The last one. See it?
Oh, yeah.
With the like red neck? Always, since the day he was born, he's always
He looks
been
like
weak.
wormy. What I would do instead of allowing him to die, just worm him and don't breed him or her, whatever. That animal shouldn't reproduce, but shouldn't be left to die.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Right, edible.
I haven't found that to work. I haven't found the basic age to work. Maybe because I'm in the subtropics and we have heavy parasite burden.
Well, the other thing I had read about was a combination of A and copper as a wormer. Yeah,
What's A?
vitamin A
Oh, vitamin A and copper.
and copper. And
I will try it, yes.
Advanced Biological Concepts has an A mix,
Yes.
and they incorporate the other nutrients that are necessary for the A to be absorbed. But I put those two dishes, they hit them often.
Okay, Rocco, that's a good idea there. Have you seen the water, how it comes out?
Can't have copper.
You have
Well, they
iron
can, but
excess,
just
so
not
you
as
need, you may be lacking copper. So it would be good to try that.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Also, worming during the full moon, I understand, is when the parasites are migrating in the body and can be more effective. Today?
Today.
Yeah, yeah.
But he already has a parasite resistance lock. So only that animal. The rest,
That's excellent.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of that commitment to building up the resistance. But you're right too, Jimmy. That doesn't mean you gotta sit around and let all your animals die. I mean, there's a fine line there too.
No, I mean that animal.
Yeah, I
The
understand.
rest are perfect.
Everybody else is looking pretty good.
Did your foundational stock come from a herd that has not been wormed?
They did. They did. I think that's important. I think that helps. It helps so much. It just, you save a lot of time, a lot of your
I
time.
think you should consider coccidiosis as well
Yeah.
for such a young animal because their immunity's not built up yet, and so they could be overrun with that.
We've had some coccidias, and I'm not surprised that that animal's sick because, like I said, that one, from the day I remember the day it was born, it's always been weak. It's always been susceptible. So, you know, you'll get some of those too.
I hadn't noticed this with mine. I'll turn them into a fresh break, as you call it, and instead of going to clover, grass, they're eating horse nettle. Like with that, I mean, it looks like there's a lot of diversity in here, and he's eating weeds. Does that tell you anything if they're going after something you wouldn't expect them to?
That only tells me that it's better. Maybe minerals, maybe energy, maybe protein. I don't know, but he knows. The best lab there is the cow.
So I've had some, I've turned them in, and the first next thing I turn around, that's what they're eating, with berries hanging out of their mouth, and that's supposedly, I guess, toxic to them.
But look at him, he's in very good body condition. Couldn't be fatter. He's ready for harvest, and if he's eating that, that's what he needs.
Would that tell me there's maybe a deficiency in something else if they're...
Maybe.
Let's go over here, guys, and we're going to ease up the hill. We'll look at the rams real quick. And Jimmy had said with the a third to a half of the farm starting that rotation. I'll show you guys where I started and where we are now.
It's a nice steer.
What do you think of this?
Lacking protein.
Lacking protein?
Yeah, but he's already finished. So that's okay. He's ready for his next trip. But the sheep are selecting better quality. You see the sheep here? That's good sheep manure.
The way I was taught originally, this was a little bit more desirable because this is trampling and this stuff is kind of laying down, and then that's adding carbon and
Why don't you get down on your knees and take it apart? Will it lay down or will it spring back up?
this in this stage will probably spring back up.
Yeah.
So
are we shading the growing points?
absolutely.
Is that good?
No?
Will our leaf to stem ratio improve by doing this?
Will the leaf to stem ratio improve by this method?
Yeah.
No, it won't. It'll go bad.
And what captures sunlight?
Leaves.
Leaf. What's the best fit for your sheep, leaf or stems?
Leaves.
Then let's manage for leaf.
Okay, so how
A
about
bigger solar panel.
Okay, so how about this for a question? In a pasture like this, what would be the best way for me to implement more density and more even to the ground.
You almost answered yourself. A smaller
More
break.
More density.
A smaller break.
A smaller break. All right.
And more frequent moves.
All right.
This is too large a break for
Sure,
for
it should
that
be
flock.
much.
Maybe a third of it.
Okay. All right.
But see, the manure is very good. The cheap, this is very good cheap manure. Even that, it's moist, it's not hard. See if I go like this, see, it breaks. We did some trials and I have pictures where we applied inoculated biochar with soft reactive rock phosphate and non-inoculated biochar on smaller application rates. And it worked very well, the inoculated biochar with rock phosphate on that soil. It was amazing, the results. So we planned on replicating that.
So cattle used to run in such big herds that they were high density
No.
because they were in big herds?
No, cattle didn't run in huge herds. They were in smaller groups, but they were herded by predators. Cattle were not bison. They weren't antelope or buffalo. Cattle used to run on the edge of the forest in smaller groups, maybe 200, 300, and smaller family groups because the bulls fight. But they were herded by predators. That's why they stayed concentrated. How long ago was this grazed, Rock?
This is stockpile.
Oh, this is stockpile.
This hasn't been grazed since March.
Since March. Okay. And right now it's what we call the summer slump.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll get another spurt here and when it cools off a little bit.
Will you have doubled the forest you have now by early winter or not?
I don't know that I'll have double.
So the fall growth is not that big. It's just a little.
Yeah. It's pretty minimal. Yeah. Spring growth is
the big part is in spring. In proportion, how much do you get in spring compared to fall?
I'd say fall is probably a quarter of spring.
So this will only green up and grow a little. Good enough. Because you have a lot of this.
Indeed.
So is this ready?
Oh, it won't be ready till winter. After he runs out of the green grass, then he will start grazing this in long strips and advancing, like we said, around 30 feet wide and advancing maybe 10 feet or something like that, 3 or 4 times a day. And then after the first few days, he's going to know how many acreage he's consuming per day. Then he can take out the calculator and know how long it will take him to finish everything. And it should take him into 3 weeks after the green up. Okay, could we go?
Sure, let's go. Okay, everybody, so I started over there in April with Jimmy's plan. Graze it when it starts growing, when it's ready to be grazed. Keep moving them along. Whenever where you started is ready again, you come back to it. That's what I've done. Perfect. So I started there. I got to over there in the woods. All this behind me was grazed, and then I went out front. Out front was a little more difficult for me, like I explained, because it wasn't as straightforward, because it wasn't just pasture. But now I'm seeing some things I can do with management, both with density. The biggest thing I'm gathering from today is density, really. Like, that's the key. What comes after that is time and observation and everything like that. Yeah. I feel a little guilty because we talked about this before, but anyway.
It took me like 5 years to really get it.
the best teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got really the rest of the farm here for winter. And I'm not worrying about that until this flush finishes. And this probably won't finish till mid-November, maybe. And then the other big thing that obviously we're going to implement is that density. So what I can do now is when I bring them back up the hill, like you saw where they were, they'll go a little by the chickens and a little over there. probably Wednesday, Thursday of next week, they'll be back up here. I'm gonna go to that corner and I'm gonna walk off 30 feet. And now I'm gonna come down here, however long, I'm gonna go to down here, I'm gonna walk off 30 feet. I'm gonna do that all the way down. I'm gonna make a 30-foot aisle. And then I'm gonna start them right down in that corner.
Are they going to walk back, or you're going to put the water with
I'm
them?
gonna start them there, and then I'm gonna start moving.
But if they can go back and they can regrade the regrowth, after 4 days they will be able to.
Right.
So don't.
Well, yeah, well, that's a matter of leaving.
Then just put a back fence and put the water with them.
Your back fence, yeah.
I do back fence the goats and sheep.
Yeah. The water, we can move water around with a hose, an automatic waterer. A good water system, good fencing, good genetics.
What do you do about minerals when you're doing?
I'm on the Free Choice Enterprise. I'm on their 8 mineral program. It's just, 4x8 piece of plywood with a, 12-inch, maybe it's 8 or 10 inch. Yeah, and we just make it. And then it's covered with a big thick piece of
like a stallman.
Right. And then the cattle go and they smell and they lift it up, and it's really cool to watch them, and they've got a little thing and they just lick it.
And the sheep will do the same thing.
Those sheep, first thing they did when I took it down there was they jumped on top of it and caved it all in.
Right.
And so then I played blah, blah, blah. And then I built a roof for it, and then the one steer went there and did this and lifted up and broke the roof, blah, blah, blah. So that's just...
So it hasn't worked yet.
Right, but it's the same...
Right.
That's just silly logistical stuff, but it's the same thing of the same principle. It's just making it apply. Yeah, I just got to figure out something to do.
We use a lighter rubber mat on the top and bigger on the sides, so they can push it up, eat it, and then it falls.
And the goats will do it?
The goats
And
and
they
the
don't
sheep.
get on it?
They get on it.
They get on it.
But that's not a problem. That's not a problem because it won't cave in because of the rubber.
I wonder if you couldn't do like a board that goes over the middle of it. I see that a lot of tire waters at the farm I'm working on. Keep the cows out of the water. Put a board that goes straight up over the middle, bisects the middle.
Yeah, it's just something to play with and figure out and just narrow it down. But I guess, on the pasture walk and what I'm understanding is, so what I'm going to do is really, really increase my density and very much increase my...
You have a lot of grass there.
My break. So then I'm going to move them, and then within a couple days of doing that, I'm going to come down here and they're going to be satisfied, or there's going to be a bunch of leftover grass, or they're going to be really hungry. So that'll help me fluctuate the size of the paddock to a finite degree in the time. But then I can start figuring that out, and then from that I can calculate how often I need to move them, and when it's running. Of course.
Move them twice a day, and then you can adjust to give them more or less, much easier than when you do it once a day. When you do it once a day, since you're not going to return till next day, you cannot adjust.
Yeah, but I don't want to move them once a day anymore.
Good. So move them twice a day, and that will work for you.
Yeah, because what you say is true. They like that down there. Like they walk around and they soil it and they trample it, and you end up wasting a third of your grass. And coming into winter and everything like that, we're really trying to conserve those.
It's like if you planted corn and then you only want to harvest 2/3 and leave 1/3 on the ground. That's not good economics.
This is the 15-acre spot, this one here that you can see. We've got 3 acres and some acreage across the street where we're implementing some stuff with vegetables and animals as well. And stuff.
You're focusing on about 15 to 16
Well,
acres.
I'm grazing about 30 acres total on the farm.
You're dragging hoses?
I've got water, like the pipes, and I just drag hose. It's worked out fine for the past couple of years.
I'm dragging hoses.
It's worked out. It's worked out fine.
Yes.
Have you heard anything about irrigation systems actually weakening root systems so that they're less able to handle drought?
That will happen only if you irrigate too frequently with a very small quantity of water. Then you keep the roots in the shallow zone. We irrigate more infrequently in Florida, and we apply 3.5 inches per irrigation cycle. then we get deeper roots. We irrigate in the summer, every 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. In the winter, every month, more or less.
Okay.
Yes. But all the time, 3.5 inches.
3.5 inches, that's magic number.
Well, for us,
Okay.
because if the evaporation over there is so high, you lose a third of an inch per day. Here it will be more like a third of an inch per week. So it's very different.
Okay.
In your soil as well.
Sandy soil, this holds more moisture and nutrients than we do over there.
So Jimmy, if I do that, and oh by the way, next year, this gets stockpiled, that gets grazed. So if I do all that and keep this stuff low to the ground, more leaves, less stems, more ability for the seed bank to germinate.
That's on the part that you're rotating. But the other section will start to grow warm season perennials that instead of being this high, they will be this high. So your production per acre will double at least. That's the interesting part.
This is the stockpiled area?
Yes. And then next year, the other area will get the same treatment. So if you don't have the grass seed planted, and your production per ranch, per farm, will be doubled at least.
But this has to be grazed down to that level and then rested for a stockpile.
Not this, that one will be rested. Yeah, this will not be rested. Next year, this will be grazed every 50 days. So that's where you're going to plant the warm season perennials.
I don't think it's going to be 50 days so I come back around either. I think it's going to be much sooner.
Okay, but as you start to graze non-selective, it will take longer to come back.
See, that's the puzzling thing. We just got to wrap our heads around that.
Yeah, that's the problem because you're leaving so much behind. You have to come back sooner. That's what weakens the plants. If you take it all down, then you can afford to, it will take much longer to come back because they won't advance as fast.
Yeah, but it's such a smaller space. It'd be interesting to see where I end up back. Right. But I see what you're saying.
It will take much longer.
To take it all, you need to give it more time to recover.
No, smaller breaks, but it will take longer to finish an acre than right now.
I understand.
Maybe twice as long. That's what it's very important to understand that part. That's what makes all the system work. The non-selective grazing.
I understand. Non-selective grazing.
It's just not, it doesn't make sense without doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to imagine because of how the sheep treat it, but I'm excited to see it too.
We're doing it in Florida.
With sheep?
No, with cows. But we're doing the correct calving season, the correct genetics, adapted genetics, the correct grass management, and the correct mineral and protein supplementation program. And we have advanced so much that it's incredible, really. We have 4 times the stocking rate that is recommended for the area. Plus we started with severely degraded soils and it's been only 3.5 years. Wow. So we think we can improve that very much still.
It's phenomenal.
Jimmy, any final thoughts?
No, just congratulations, you're doing everything right. When you do all the 4 parts together, the adapted genetics which you have, the correct lambing season which you have, and the correct grass management and mineral and protein supplementation, which you may not need the protein, maybe yes, maybe not, you can go to 2, 4 or more times more production per acre or per farm than the neighbors, plus you will continue to improve the environment more every year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
It's true.